21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
If you've ever come close to or crossed the threshold of $1 million, you've already seen past the 0 to 1. The biggest problem that every entrepreneur now faces is that 1 to beyond. In this podcast, I'm going to talk about how we can actually scale beyond that $1 million mark, build for the future, and actually plan for the future that you want to have, as opposed to what you dreamt you had before you reached this point. My name is Justin Abrams. I've been a management consultant and top business advisor to over 350 companies all throughout the world. I've become the #1 management consultant on Upwork for the past 3 years with over $250,000 earned. I've worked with clients from Sony, Bayer, Pfizer, Merck, and many of the startups and household names that you will grow to hear about more, and I'm sure you've already heard of some. Take a look at your current revenue and your current costs. Before you've actually done this in the past, you probably were just focused on reaching that $1 million threshold. It's fantastic. But the real way to grow from that 1 million to beyond is taking a strong milestone and going from 1 million to 2 million. I want you to think through, what is it that will actually need to happen in your business? Is it maybe you need to double your spending on ads? Is it that you need more team members? Is it that you need better technology? Is it that you need to make 2 storefronts instead of 1 physical storefront? What is it that will take you from that $1 million point to that $2 million point? Think about that, dream about it. And then beyond that, I want you to think, what would it take to get to that $5 million mark? Because going from 1 to 2 million, you could probably do that okay with just a small amount of additional efforts. But after that point, you really need to plan for that exponential growth. I'm going to take you into a hypothetical business. I'm going to actually use a business that's going to be selling chocolate bars. These chocolate bars are just like any other brand, Hershey's, Snickers. There's millions of chocolate brands in the world, right? But you've been able to successfully get at least $1 million in sales. Now, the problem that you're going to have is, how are you going to continue to acquire new customers? Or alternatively, can you sell twice as many chocolate bars to the same customer over that yearly lifetime value? That is your biggest problem, and you're going to have to make a decision across the entire company of saying, are we going to double down on our same clientele, and or how do we figure out to expand this reach? Because we've already found this market, right? We already know the Justins and the Martins like it, and the Sallys and the Sandras do not like it for whatever reason. So how can we reach these same people, all things being equal, better? What I'm going to start to say is going to seem a little counterintuitive, but before you ever do that, I want you to think about religion for a second. So we all have heard of, I'm sure, I don't know if how many of you are believers, but God, right? We all have heard of God. This framework is what I add to my clients at all stages. It's the God framework. Stands for G for growth, optimize, and destroy. From that $0 to $1 million mindset, it's really all about growth and not looking back. Around that $1 million mark, your costs are going to start to run chaotically and out of control. How do we, as a business owner, actually look back at the past year? As our KPI, the thing that we care about most was to get to that $1 million mark. And now that you've crossed that threshold. Well, if your costs are also $1 million, then you've made $0 at the end of the day. So what we're trying to constantly do is figure out what can be in the cost column removed or cut by at least 50%. Now, what are those things? Like, there's only three things, right? You have the land, the physical manufacturing piece of it, the labor, which is the humans that are in process, and the additional operating costs, right? SG&A, the marketing, all of the capital and the equipment required to build this chocolate business, right? So where can you cut those costs, right? It's very difficult to cut 50% across the board. So you might need to cut 10 to 15% on each. But one of the first things that we look at is on marketing, right? So where are we spending on marketing? Is it Instagram and Facebook, so Meta? Is it Google Ads? Are you reaching out to enough people? Do you have a sales force to potentially get you into a retailer? What is it that how are you able to attract $1 million worth of business? And then what could happen to cut that marketing cost down by half? Because unlike every other part of the business, marketing costs should actually scale down from an acquisition cost, right? If you create 1 billion chocolate bars, you're going to need to add more people to adapt to this. But technically, if you want to sell 1 billion chocolate bars, you should be spending as a percentage of the number of chocolate bars less on marketing, because more people understand who you are. There's a word of mouth piece. There's people that are getting hired, and so they're spending their conversations talking about this business. So I really want you to think about, like, going from that $1 to $2 million, what is the marketing that needs to change, and how do we cut that by at least 50%? Let's say you are now growing. Now you haven't reached that $2 million mark, but you are starting to get more orders. There's new customers, and the current customers that you have are buying more of your products. So the first thing you do when you see this happening is you start to panic. What am I going to do when our growth is actually going to affect our quality? Because all businesses are balancing that quantity and quality. If tomorrow you got $5 million of orders, you would obviously not be able to satisfy them. It would be poorer quality, and that would ultimately be a bad batch that your customers start to complain about. It ruins you. So you need to be very cautious on quality control. One of the hardest parts about hiring people is you're ultimately trying to hire for something like technical skills. So, oh, where did you go to college? What did you study? Oh, you're an engineer. Oh, you studied you worked at a chocolate manufacturer. Great, you're a great fit. Okay, that's the first way. Or the second way is culture fits. This person is very similar to us. They're, very methodical. They have, worked in these factories, so they understand the processes. What is very difficult to hire for is actually that hustle and grit mentality that's needed at a startup. A lot of times, and probably the biggest problem that I see in hiring, is someone who is a startup hires someone who is a former employee of a large company, say Amazon, Google, Meta, and they just say, oh, because they worked there, they're leading to the success of the company. When in reality, anyone could enter into Amazon and probably isn't going to change the bottom line of the business. They're going to continue to be $1 billion or $1 trillion business, right? So you need to figure out, how did this person actually improve and lead that change in that company? Is Amazon because of this person, or is this person riding on the coattails, riding on the success, right? Do they happen to have the car that's going 200 miles an hour and they just are in the driver's seat, or are they actually building that car? So when you're hiring, you need to find someone and you need to build a strategy and give them the right directions, but they really need to be able to jump in front of chaos. Because at that point in time, when you're at the $1 million mark and you're trying to go to $2 million, there's a lot of jobs that they don't put on the job description, right? Answering calls at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m., talking to vendors, even though you don't have any decisions involved, you've never worked with a vendor, talking to the floor manufacturers, even though you don't really have experience. So customer relations, marketing, what's the back and forth, all of these things are really hard. So I want you to realize that your next employee or two, depending on what you need to hire, is so much more critical than the actual growth of the marketing, growth of the business. This is what a business consulting firm does. We're like a primary care physician. We ask you how you're feeling, what is good, what's going wrong, and then we work towards your future, the health of your business. Just as I had talked about earlier, right? How do you grow successfully from $1 to $2 million? That is something that a business consultant, we work with you day in and day out about the strategies needed. And then we work understanding your entire budget. So the difference between a marketing agency, which really focuses on just growth, they just want to grow, and a lawyer, all they want to do is play defense. They just want to make sure that you don't get sued. A business consultant is a kind of a mixture of the offense and defense. We're there to grow, but we're also there to ensure that you're not growing too fast and you see those failures, those quality control concerns. It's a very unique way for a business to be improved, but it's actually the right way, and it's what all of the largest companies in the world use. These strategies that I've just spoken to you about are exactly what our 350 clients and beyond are given. In fact, I just spoke with a client. They can grow beyond belief because they sell a course, and they can sell one course, they can sell 1,000 courses, and there is no fulfillment concerns. So what we've done is taken a totally new approach to their marketing. We can spend all we want, but that's not the goal, because that's not going to scale appropriately. So we've increased their marketing by 50%, but we're increasing their sales by 200%. We just did that. I have another client, they cannot grow. They have a fulfillment issue. It's an HVAC company, right? You have to hire these people. This is a very difficult job to hire for. And especially in certain locations, there's an employment shortage. So what we're doing is, instead of increasing their marketing spend, we're cutting their marketing spend, but we're actually delivering the same amount of revenue. So they can focus on quality control and scaling effectively waiting for a new person to be hired, but by actually spending less money on marketing. So they're saving a few $1,000s every single week. So there's just the strategies that we bring to the table across all of our companies and really ensuring that they grow in the way that they need to grow. We want to be the number one place for small businesses to come to. We want to be that doctor that works with all of the small businesses in the world and make sure that they're growing the same way that all the large companies are growing. Because if you're a Pfizer of the world, you're just going to go and hire McKinsey, and you're going to have some Harvard MBA training that team to make sure that they're growing as fast and as aggressive and as competitive as possible. But until we started this business, there really was no business consulting firm that took those principles and brought them to the main streets of the world. So we believe that small businesses are the backbone of the economy, and they are so critical to the success of the global ecosystem. And they can adapt much faster than the large corporations that are bloated with corporate jargon and aren't realistic. But the small businesses of the world just haven't been able to do that. They haven't been able to grow because they can't afford an elite consulting firm until now. If you want to find out more, my company is Ario Consulting Group. Ario, by the way, is Japanese for safe travels. So we're here to help you cross the sea of corporate entrepreneurship safely, gently, and arriving at your destination. Our website is ariocg.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram at Ario Consulting. Or myself on Twitter, Justin_Abrams1. I'd love to talk to you guys and learn more about your business.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.